All right, what is up, my dudes? Happy Friday. Welcome to Friday's episode of the Craft of Fatherhood podcast. This is your guide, Ned Shout. I believe our role as fathers has the power to change the world simply by knowing who we are and embracing the adventure. On these episodes, I try to keep them short, share some stories, some things I'm thinking about, wrestling with, things that are working and not working. So here we go, a couple things on my mind. So recently, I think I shared last week how somebody had asked me about like, hey, are your kids believers? And is this something that you teach and share with your kids? And what does that look like? And really, it's an identity piece. The question is, where does identity come from? And I don't know where this kind of came about in the past week. Maybe it was a primal path. Probably a primal path. John Tyson. I'm doing those devotions with my son at the moment. And this story just came alive more to me. But in Luke chapter 1, Zechariah is the father of John the Baptist. And he has this vision that he's going to have a son. And there's some identity components shared with Zechariah, right? And then he questions the angel, and he's like, "Yo, how am I going to know this is true?" And the angel's like, "All right, well, you're going to be silent for the whole time your wife is pregnant." And then when John is born, the wife is like, "Yo, his name's John." And then the people are like, "Why? Where's this coming from? You don't have anybody in your family named John." They go to Zechariah, and then his mouth is open and he can speak, and he then prophesies about his son. Here's the thing that I never really considered or noticed, but where did John get his identity from? An angel came to Zechariah and told him who his son would be. So, there's no story of an angel coming to John when he's 25 saying, "Hey, you are going to kind of lead the way for the Messiah." So it leads to believe that his identity, that this was his role, came from his dad. So I say, go read it, go check it out. But it's this realization, this power, this opportunity that you and I have. How are we speaking into our kids? Now, I don't think that necessarily means that I go to Brody and I'm like, this is exactly who you will be, because I don't think that God does that with you or I, but he does shape and nurture and encourage and reveal our character through the wins and the failures. So as our sons, our daughters are growing up in our homes, are we there walking alongside them, encouraging, revealing, reflecting, being a mirror to help them see who they are? As fathers, we have an incredible power, opportunity, responsibility to impart identity to our kids. Who am I? Where did I come from? What's my purpose? Why am I here? The influence you and I have to do that is really a God-given, which I also been wrestling with, like how weird and interesting and awesome that God made family so important, that a kid is born to you and I, and the power that we have to like keep them alive. But it's so much more than that. It's also teaching them what it means to live and operate in this world. And I think in some regard, we think we need to move away from this because we don't want to shove it down our kids' throat. But there's a drastic difference of shoving religion down your kid's throat and revealing to them who they are, because we're all asking that question. Who am I? Am I seen? Do I matter? Am I important? And that really comes from parents, and it comes from fathers. Okay, something that's working for me right now. My son's 16. I'm homeschooling him. It is a tension wrestle. It's good. I feel the tension of him becoming a man, getting into a man's body, wanting freedom, wanting to make his decisions, while also needing to be held accountable and reminded of, to not be a to not be a burden to the family or to his mom, etc. But something that's working is the past couple of weeks, just giving him a bit more space, and then being okay with if his schooling, for example, goes a little bit further into the summer because he chose one thing over another, then he will have to pay those consequences, right? So I've felt he's 16, almost 17. I have felt a bit of a shift in our relationship by giving him some more space to make his own decisions. Something that's not working, my 13-year-old, when I get her into the gym with me, she's in between sports right now. So when I get her into the gym with me, we have a great time and she loves it. And it's always, thanks, Dad. This is great. I love it. The issue is when I ask, do you want to go work out? It's typically a not really. And then what I find is sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't want to push. I don't want to frustrate. I don't want to create tension. So I just go. And then when I'm like 10 minutes into my workout, I'm kicking myself like, dang it. She's just in the house doing nothing really. Why didn't I just make her come and work out with me? Because 10, 15 minutes in, she usually never leaves. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. She never leaves the workout irritated at me because I had her come in. So something not working is just knowing when. So knowing when to say, to not ask and say, hey, you're going to work out with me. So now I've said it. Hey, we're going to work out 3 days a week. This is what it is. So kind of making it this is what's happening in the season in between sports to keep you moving. And so finding that balance with your kids of when to ask and when to tell. All right, my friends, I want to end these with an affirmation, just leaning into identity. Identity is so important. So you can repeat this after me because it really matters who you say that you are. But I am the CEO of this family, or you can say I am the father of this family. I'm here to listen, provide for, protect, and care for those that have been placed in my care. No one is going to do this for me. This is my opportunity, my responsibility, and my honor. My friends, if you find these short episodes helpful, encouraging, please write a review, spread the word, shoot a text to a friend with a link to this episode. Remember who you are. You matter. You're a father, and that is big time. You have God-given opportunity and responsibility. So together, my friends, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. Let's steward it well. Much love to you, my brothers. Together, we're changing the world. I look forward to hanging out with you next week. All right, my friends, you've been hearing me talk about the Genesis program through Rise of Kings, and I am incredibly excited to invite you to it as well as be a part of it. Rise of Kings has helped thousands of men over the last 5 years discover the reality of their identity, and now they have launched the Genesis program, which is for young men ages 13 to 17. And here's the idea. You as a father would take your son to this 2-day event to start to initiate a conversation and an awareness around what it means to be a man. But the conversation would really be between you and your son. And then after the 2-day event, once we expose your sons to the 4 pillars, to what it means to be a man, then we work with you and your son. I'm actually the coach for the mastermind program. You got Mondo Davis, who does the 2-day event, incredible man, 11 children. He's currently working with his 16-year-old son. I'm working with my 16-year-old son. So you guys, this is fresh. This is real. This matters. So we want to invite you to the 2-day event with you and your son. And then after that, I'll be the coach for the 6-month mastermind where I'm working with you every 2 weeks. And then I'm working with your sons every 2 weeks with the idea that we're helping you to really step into what does it look like to help transition your son from a boy into a man. This is something you won't want to miss. It is worth the time, the resources to really help your son see who he is young and early so that he can love, lead, serve a family and the kingdom moving forward at a young age. Please go to riseofkings.com/FFN to register. You and your son would love to see you in the program.